Hello, my name is Adam Campbell. I was born in Dallas in 1998, where I lived with my three half-siblings and my mom and my dad until about 2002 when we moved to Houston, Texas. In 2001, my younger sister was born, and my dad had a job opportunity the following year in 2002 to move to Houston, and he took it. When we moved to Houston, I was a bit skeptical. Obviously I was super young. I didn't want to move. And I was just worried that I wasn't going to find anybody similar to me, etc., etc. I love Houston so much. When I moved into that neighborhood, I started to meet people pretty frequently, and I definitely think they have a say in who I am today. I definitely think they shaped me as a person. The area I moved to was nice. Everybody was close, so it was a bike ride from house to house. We were always doing things like pickup sports, pretty much your typical kind of later elementary school, kind of middle school shenanigans. I completed my school years in Houston with all those boys that I still am close to today. Elementary school, middle school, and high school. And then once it started to come around to look for a university, I was pretty certain that I wanted to go to Texas Tech. I have a lot of family here. My dad went here, and I have his whole side of the family still lives here today. So I've been coming here for pretty much throughout my lifetime. When it came around to choosing where I wanted to go, it was pretty clear. I came down and visited the school one last time with my parents, and I made the decision, and it's been probably one of the greatest decisions of my life. I've met some brilliant people up here that I can say I'm super close to. So yeah, that's where I'm at today, and that's pretty much all that I can give for my historic part, the history part. Alrighty, so next I want to move to my life trajectory. When I came here at Tech, I really thought off the bat that I wanted to be in sales and marketing in the Rawls. I got into the Rawls, and the year unfolded, and it wasn't enough for me. It wasn't juicy enough, I guess. Like, I couldn't get into the material that I was supposed to be reviewing for that degree plan. I've been obsessed with cars pretty much my whole life. I love modding cars, that whole scene. So I knew, if I wanted to have a lot of job satisfaction, it'd have to be obviously somewhere that I was pretty passionate about. So I really thought that I wanted to be in sales and marketing on like a dealership floor, work at a dealership and kind of work my way up in that business, but it just didn't really click for me. That whole kind of dream died off pretty quickly. I'm in the Technique Center, which is like a tutoring system here at Tech in West Hall. And I talked with my counselor kind of just pretty much, about how I was feeling at the time, and kind of what I was really interested in, kind of what I'd want to do after college, the job areas. We got together, and she really told me about the university studies program. She told me that you could tie all these areas together, and that really, really kind of, that struck a bulb in my head. That was really interesting to me. I wanted to learn more and more about that program. I met with Alyssa Wagner in University Studies, and we came up with electronic media communications, advertising, and human relations as areas that would be the most fitting for me. Ever since then, in this program, I've been really engaged. I should say. It encapsulates you. You learn a lot. It's over the things that I'm interested in. So, definitely more of the material I was looking for. Now, I still feel like I want to work somewhere in the kind of the car industry, whether that's for an aftermarket part company or just some kind of something in HR. I'm not too sure yet. I don't really have that exact goal, but I know it's going to be something using the components that I learn throughout this program. And so that'd be it for my life's trajectory. Alrighty, So next would be the connection part of this personal narrative, and throughout this week's material, we've been learning about Bateson's ideas towards continuities and discontinuities. We've learned about what continuities and discontinuities are as a whole, but we also learned about the threading between the two and how that all works. And for me personally, it's pretty obvious what kind of threads everything together, what adds that, connection between everything. And that's simply just learning. An experience teaches you something every single time. Every single time an experience teaches you something. Whether it's the same experience that you've done a million times, or whether it's something you've done for the first time. It all has a say on how you go about conducting a solution to something, or how you go about solving a problem, or just how you go about doing things. This can be anything. Anything can connect, and you learn similarities between different areas. That's something that I've learned a lot over the years. Whether it's like talking to girls, or figuring out how to do something like a chore, maybe how to do a shortcut with a chore. But anything you learn connects to something else. It doesn't have to be super similar. You learn so much from just doing one task. And to me, the threading between everything is just your background knowledge on it. So, for example, when you have an issue, you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure out how to do that. And, you learn from it. Everybody always talks about how learning from mistakes is one of the biggest things in life, and that's true. We keep talking about the connecting threads, and that's just simply learning how to do things. And you could literally put the same strategy to use for something else. It really doesn't have to be similar. So definitely for the connection part, what connects something to the other would definitely be just learning, just gaining knowledge. Lastly comes the continuity section of this personal narrative. Continuity is it's very juicy. I keep using the word juicy, but it's something that, a continuity, for example, is something that is still so relevant to an individual today. And this can be anything as well. This can be how you see yourself. This can be how you go about, doing a chore. This can be how you go about doing homework. It's just the same repetition. It's very relevant to you today, to anybody today. A discontinuity, for example, is something in the past. So they are a bit different, but I'm going to talk about how they are literally directly correlated in a bit. So discontinuities are something that is in the past. So this can be like a home place. This can be, like a deceased pet. This can be, an old neighborhood, something in the past. But now these discontinuities will always have an influence, most of the time. Maybe not every single discontinuity, but most of the time these things in the past will still have a say in how you go about doing things, basically all of that. Just there's always an influence when you have a big discontinuity from the past. Bateson really talked about how we should use kind of flexible thinking. She talked about how we need to think in, an arch, or not an arch, but a zigzag. You need to use a spiral of different experiences to judge something. And this is kind of the whole concept of having that continuity from a discontinuity. Also, the publisher or the author of our textbook, Marcus Tanner, says that things can be often remain relevant even though they were in the past. Things will always still have a say. Um, and he used college education as an example of this, and I thought that was such a good example. Overall, it's probably that specific example has really helped me understand the concept of both of them. So he used this college education as an example of a discontinuity because it was discontinuous. You know, he graduated, he got his degree plan, and moved on. But he remains using those ideas and those concepts and everything he learned throughout his college career today. I think everybody does that has a college education still uses things that they learned in college, in modern time, and I think that's why college is so detrimental. But that example really stuck out to me because I was like, okay, that is a discontinuous point in his life, but he still uses that. So isn't that still considered a continuity? And so what I have to say about that is, things can be considered a discontinuity. They can be discontinuous in your life, but they still have that continuous threading. There's always going to be that similar area between everything. And I started to think, that really made me think that specific example. I was like, man, what are some other things that could be considered something like a college education? And I was looking back and I was like, jobs. I had a job in the summer, pretty crappy job, but it taught me a lot in terms of in many different areas about a job. I thought about old professors, old teachers from many different years of my school and their ideas and things that I had learned from them, and how I still kept those things that really stuck out to me relevant today. I never let them die. It could be, like I said, it could be a pet. You learn something about, your first dog, and that helps you in life, get your second dog. Things like that. There's always that continuous threading that remains to you if it's that serious as a discontinuity. And so that will wrap up this personal narrative. But I really enjoyed this lesson. I enjoyed this whole section. I thought it was very fascinating learning about continuities and discontinuities, and learning about Bateson and her ideas, and how you could put those towards yourself and your own experiences. So yeah.